Today we're looking at the iconic sound of Griselda records. Now I consider myself a hip hop kid, but sometimes particular sounds just slip through the cracks, and thanks to the comment sections, you've brought Griselda to my attention. What's up guys, and welcome back to another episode of Inspired By. My name's Will, and I make an assortment of music under the moniker Hush Child. Now if you're also unfamiliar with Griselda Records, let me fill you in. It's an independent record label based in Buffalo, and it was founded by rapper Westside Gunn. That's the door. It was founded by rapper Westside Gunn and his brother Conway the Machine. And Benny the Butcher and Derringer make up the flagship artists, but there's many more artists on the roster. The musical style is considered dark and gritty, bringing back that boom bap of the golden age of hip hop. In a lot of Griselda beats, they're often sampling jazz records. So today I want to show you how to make those particular sounds from scratch in Ableton. Let's not waste any time, let's jump into it. Okay, Griselda style beats. No crazy rooting today, just should be able to stack instruments on top of one another, starting with this drum group here. Super aggressive, super heavy. So what have we got going on? I originally wanted to try some Dilla samples, but they just weren't heavy enough. So we're going with the RT Kick Stingray, whatever that is, probably from Splice. And we've got this kind of boom bap pattern here. Just a quieter dynamic on these two offbeat kicks here. Should go without saying, you can probably hear that noise there. I've got drum bus on the master drum group to add a little bit of punch. You can see it's just a little bit more aggressive, so some drive, some crunch, boosting the frequency where kind of the fundamental frequency of my kick drum is. And I've got the Waves Retro 5, been loving this plugin, adds a lot of kind of mechanical noise, a little warp there, but just to Just to beef up that saturation, I've got the Waves Factory cassette as well. So notice the difference before and after. Of course, I could dial that in a little bit more with the Waves Retrofy, but I'm just being lazy. And then the EQ8, so it isn't super explosive. So anyway, I have this live snare here, and it has overdrive and a limiter, and then some Valhalla plate reverb. I've pitched this kick and snare down and pulled them out a little bit with the warp tool. So once again, they have all of that noise and they sound detuned and they sound as bassy and aggressive as possible. So this snare is actually down 6 semitones. And then I've just used the overdrive from Ableton to make sure it's again even more distorted, even more aggressive, the limiter and then the Valhalla plate. And we're just adding a little bit of a transient noise with the clap. The clap isn't doing very much. It's super high pass, and I've probably, warped it and pitched it down as well, but it's lower in the mix than the snare. It's just a transient noise so that snare can pop a little bit more. So that's the kick and snare kind of pattern. The really important thing to get down is that swung ride feel. So I just got a couple of ride samples and stretched them out and put them into kind of that J Dilla, but still kind of jazzy swing pattern. I love that kind of vibrato warbling that the Waves Retrofy is bringing to the table. So we've got that there, but I noticed in Griselda beats, there's sometimes a second sample coupled there. So I've got a second ride cymbal that just plays really low in the mix. And I also just found this drum break from Soul Surplus, and I'm just using the ghost notes to create a little roll back into the kick drum. So it sounds a little bit more organic than you just put in a kick drum sample, a snare sample, and a ride. It sounds like it's in a physical space, which is what I'm all about, especially as a drummer. I want my drum samples to sound like they actually came from a live kit. So I've got my crash, splash, and smash here. They're essentially all just ride cymbals with a kind of roll. I could have got my own ride cymbal and recorded a bunch of different rolls. Maybe that's an idea for the future. If you want to get a sample pack from me, let me know in the comments. But yeah, just got these rolls to act as little nuances throughout the loop so it doesn't sound as repetitive. I noticed those were in Griselda beats as well. There's nothing much going on with these, just some EQing, some panning. But again, they just kind of couple that beat really nicely. So now we're on to the melodies. I just want to interrupt this beat real quickly to tell you about why I use DistroKid. You see, I've been using DistroKid for most of my professional career, and they really do make it an effortless process to release your music. You see, you can get your music on all the streaming platforms, and that's over 150 stores, including Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, and then social medias like Instagram and TikTok. They have the spotlight functions and Visi and promo cards and just a whole roster of marketing tools to make sure that you get your music out there. If you want to start releasing your music with DistroKid, then make sure you use the link in the description below so you can get 7% off your first year. Now, let's get back to the video. The first thing that I dropped in was this whirly marimba sound, and the original sample sounded like this. But I didn't really like the sound of it, so I've just changed some of the settings here so that it sounds a little bit darker. You can get that by changing the type, the time, and the tone. And you'll see in here that I'm also hitting that lowest note. I'm just playing a chord of all the same octave, just that F sharp there. And with each loop, I'm playing that bottom F sharp a couple more extra times, so it kind of bounces with the kick drum. And I'm just drawing the decay by hand with the volume automation there, making sure that it has a little bit more pitch wobble with the vibrato. We'll come back to the envelope follower in a little bit. So it sounds very straight, very safe. And then you add that warble and low pass it with the EQ8. And you get that kind of yon 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 kind of sound. Yon 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 yon. So yeah, on the end of this, there's an envelope follower. This envelope follower is being sent to the bass just here. I've done a video using the envelope follower before on my kind of Ableton 10 tips video, but essentially it's just dropping down this frequency here. Anytime this whirly plays, it's going to send a signal to this frequency that I've chosen and drop down the gain. And that was just kind of a harmonic that was sticking out of the mix that I didn't really like. Whilst we're here, we'll talk about the bass. Very, very simple. It's just the Ableton bass guitar because I didn't really have to worry about tone too much. I just needed an overdriven guitar. Needed to make it sound more realistic. So just changed some of these oscillators just a little bit, added the utility and then the EQ8. That's all it really needed. So didn't have to worry too much there. I doubled up on the first whirly pattern with this E piano, and the change should be obvious there. It's standing out a little bit brighter, it's an octave higher. Got that extra note there in the higher octave. Chorus ensemble with the vibrato preset again, OTT again, and the EQ8 looking just a little bit differently this time round. So those higher frequencies stand out. I just got the Whistling Bells piano from Ableton Sampler here. And I noticed when I played this instrument, it kind of rose in sound, which was really nice, but then it slowly dropped in sound. So I froze and flattened it in place and then just chose the bit I liked and repeated it. And then it becomes really quiet and grows with every 2 bars. So that becomes like a monotonous drone throughout the sample. It's kind of hard to spot, but without it, it doesn't retain the same kind of characteristics. All right, now we got the cool stuff. This is the bit of the track that I really like, that I really find interesting. The whole process was to make this sound like it was sampled from a jazzy track, right? So what we have is the Contact Gamelan Orchestra here, which are like metallic bowls. I've chosen 2 presets, so we've got some slightly different sounds. They've got that natural kind of warbling to them. This one's a little bit more dull, so just a little EQ8 there. But I wanted to make sure that they had that kind of flicked sample sound. So what you want to do is apply them to a group and add the chorus ensemble. You can keep the chorus ensemble on the individual instrument if you want. Apply the vibrato, and then with the amount, just draw in a really quick flick with the automation. It's really fun, right? It's really great to get some unique characteristics throughout your playing, and it sounds a little bit different each time the loop goes around. Finally, I just coupled those bells with, you guessed it, more bells. Really harsh EQ there. Slightly out of key. That one sounds much nicer, just kind of a counter melody. to the downbeat. The bells are really complementary to the beat, gives a really nice jazzy feel and lots of space like a Griselda Records track would have. Let's just recap with a listen to the beat once again. So there we have it. That's the sound of Griselda Records. What did you think? I'm absolutely addicted lately. They've been on my Spotify playlist constantly. What do you guys think? Are you going to be making beats that sound reminiscent of Griselda? And what do you want to see in future videos? If this has been enjoyable, helpful, do hit the subscribe button. Share it amongst your friends. It's truly, truly appreciated. As always, guys, I thank you so much for stopping by, and I'll see you next time.